I think you can take the entire planet and take everybody and put them in one or two buckets. The one bucket are the givers, and one bucket is are the takers. I try to stay away from the takers. I try to associate myself with givers.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Awesome Inc.'s podcast, where we highlight people pursuing their definition of, you guessed it, awesome. So buckle up and get ready for some more success story adventures and failures from Kentucky's tech and entrepreneur community. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Awesome Inc. podcast. I always say how excited I am, and it never is a lie. I'm sitting down with two people for the first time in this episode. My good coworker, partner in crime, brother from another mother, Kevin. I don't want to say Jay, that's your middle name. Kevin, I'll come up with a nickname, Manser, who is director of our space here at Awesome Inc., and a good friend as well, Steve Pottinger, he's kind of like the Bruce Wayne of Lexington.
Oh dear gosh! Oh my gosh! I don't know about that, but
Yeah, I'm really excited for this episode. So Kevin and Steve have been friends for quite a while, and Steve has all of a sudden come out like a hurricane and has just been helping with the entrepreneurial community, mentor startups, come judge at 5 Cross, and has just been really active. And so Steve has a great story, a great background, and Kevin has been our introduction. So I'm going to let Kevin do some of the hosting, ask questions, and just continue to foster that relationship. So, Big Kevin.
Yeah.
How you doing today, man?
I'm doing greet. Just got back from lunch, so I'm feeling extra great.
Feeling extra frisky. Well, Hey, why don't you give a little introduction of who Steve is, and we'll get to know him a little more.
Sure. So I was first introduced to Steve back, this was probably 4 or 5 years ago. Back before my time here at Awesome Inc., I was in the banking industry, and Steve was introduced to me from another coworker, from a superior of mine at the bank, and he was on his way out. I was young and up and coming and on my way in, and Steve was a friend and a client that was very, I love that he was passed on to me, and it's been a great relationship since. So we did a few deals together, but as he would come into the bank, I just got to know him. And, Steve has an infectious personality, as Garrett, you already know, but hopefully the listeners will get to understand at the end of this. So yeah, Steve, I want to give you like 2 minutes to just, if you were to introduce yourself to someone and they were like, who in the world is Steve Pottinger? You got 2 minutes to tell them. What would you tell them?
Oh my gosh, that puts a lot of pressure. Well, first of all, as far as being passed on, Kevin, actually at the bank, your person you referred to, I specifically said, hey, because you and I had worked together a little bit, and I had told your person in charge is, it's okay to mention his name? Or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Craig. So Craig. So anyway, I did sure. So I said, Craig, hey, look, I'd like to work with Kevin. So that you weren't just passed on, but you were specifically chosen.
Well, I appreciate
that I said, hey, I'd like to, because I've been around the banking for a long time with Craig and that sort of thing. But anyway, so the question was, if you had
2 minutes to run an elevator with someone, they're like, who in the world is Steve Pottinger? What would you tell them?
Oh my gosh. And I told you this earlier before we got started. I would rather be asking the questions than giving the answers.
You're in our house now, buddy.
But I know, so I've got to answer the questions. I think I'm a business guy. And, as far as, if the question is on the business side, business is important to me. Family is important to me. I think this Awesome Inc. is pretty dang neat. It kind of fits a lot of things that I like. I like seeing what you guys do with, helping develop, potential entrepreneurs, and I feel like I'm talking like my dad, but back when I was doing it, I didn't have a lot of people helping me,
Absolutely.
So I kind of, think it's kind of neat that maybe I'm in a little bit different position now, and then maybe I can make a difference, and
Sure. Well, you say you're in a different position now than you were, say, years ago. You're originally from Louisville.
I'm originally from Louisville. That's right.
How long have you been in Lexington, and what brought you to Lexington?
Oh my gosh, I've been in Lexington forever, and but what brought me into Lexington was I was trying to you guys kind of gave me a little bit of heads up what you were going to ask me, and so I was thinking about that. So way back when, I guess I was in Louisville working, and this guy that I was working with, we kind of worked out a little bit of a deal that I would come up and help operate some of his businesses. And
What types of businesses was it?
okay,
Was it real estate? Was it
no, and
restaurant?
I was like, this is like, okay, guys, I don't want to mention that I actually
You don't have to name any names.
worked
Just what type of business?
Okay, it was a fast food.
Great. No, hey,
Okay.
I worked fast
But,
food my very first job. There's
Okay,
nothing wrong with that.
it might have been Burger King, but I don't want to mention that. So, okay. So, yes, I did that. And, you know, I always knew that whatever it was that I, you know, wanted to do my own deal. And whether it just happened to be a restaurant, whether it was a restaurant or whatever it might have been, you know, that was, you know, kind of what, you know, that I always wanted to do my own deal. So, actually, when I got up here, when I got to Lexington, I really immediately started investing in real estate. That was really my, kind of doing my own deal was always my focus. And I just thought real estate would be a good way to, kind of build a portfolio.
Sure.
I go to a banker
Sure,
and get the money,
sure.
right?
What do you think is interesting about Lexington, or what makes Lexington a great place to stay? So, you know, you mentioned you're from Louisville. You're in Lexington. What keeps you here?
You know,
Why not go back to Louisville where you're from?
mean, I
don't
think,
want you to.
I think what
But
makes
what keeps you here in Lexington?
What keeps me here in Lexington, what makes Lexington a great place to stay was that, you know, somehow I just got involved with some of the folks that were kind of I don't know what you want to call them, you know, some of the leaders in the community. And, you know, even early on, I met the mayor and, you know, help on his committee, or, you know, his a real election committee, and, you know, gotten a little involved with the university. And, even, you know, fast forward, you know, some of the folks that I've, you know, gotten involved with today is just, it's pretty neat. And I think Lexington is big enough, but it's not too big.
Yeah, I love that. So I agree with you. I'm from a very, very small town in the north. And I agree with that last statement you just said. Lexington is a big city, but it's still small enough to where most everybody knows everybody. You know, you can walk down Main Street and see 2-3 people you know. And I love that because Lexington does offer a ton of amenities. I mean, it's a decent sized city, and there's a lot happening here. You've had a decent hand in a lot of that. What's been one of your favorite projects over the last couple of years? Because you have made some investments in Lexington, whether that's real estate or restaurant business. What's been one of your favorite projects over the years here in Lexington?
Wow, my favorite. You kind of mentioned, you know, we were involved in restaurants. You know, we were involved in the Cheddar's concept for about 20 years, and we developed that concept. And that was great, and it was life-changing for me, I guess. And so, but if they're my favorite, I don't know if it's my favorite or not. You know, sometimes
one of them,
sometimes
yeah.
Got
a lot of favorites.
You know, sometimes buying a house and seeing what I can do with it and flipping it, as crazy as that sounds. People say, why would you even mess with that? But I kind of like being able to see it and think what I could do to that house without spending a whole lot of money, and maybe enhance it and, you know, do something with it. So,
Yeah.
you know, that's been fun, I guess.
Looks like you bought your first piece of property when you were 25. Garrett, I think you're 6?
25 and a half.
25 and a half. So he's almost 26. I'm 28. If you were to tell someone at our age, you know, I think you should go after this, or, you know, you are ambitious enough to put yourself out there, to get connected with good people. You know, if you were given a piece of good entrepreneurial / business advice to someone coming out of college, they want to stay here in Lexington and they wanted to start something, where would you direct them, or what's a good piece of advice that you would share with someone in our spot?
And actually, I was thinking about how would you give advice? So, you know, way back when I was getting started, you know, my thinking was, you know, how do people accumulate wealth? You know, how is it they accumulate this wealth? And so in my mind, I always thought, okay, you know, one thing, being from the banking industry, you know this, you know, if banks going to loan you money, you've got to have income, right? Because they go, what if it doesn't work out? How are you going to pay me back?
Exactly.
So the two things that were always important to me were income and credit. You know, I'm kind of a little bit of a credit guru,
Sure.
you know, just trying to always, you know, establish, you know, having that good credit report, if you will, and also having that income, so that even though I might have been working at a place that I didn't want to mention the king, that I had the income to also be able to borrow money because, my thought was even way back when I thought, how do these people, sometimes you say life is like a basketball game. You don't really win or lose, you just run out of time.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
No, that's exactly right.
You know what I mean? So, but it's kind of when you think about people that have really, really done well, how did they do it? Well, they didn't save the money, but somehow they got the money. And so I always thought about, so really it's somebody else's money, or they call it, other people's money. And I don't know if I'm making sense with all that or not, but, so I thought, okay, I've got to have the income, even though I'm not doing exactly what I want to do at 25, which I wasn't, but I was buying real estate. And so then once I accumulated a few properties, now when I, went to a lender, they saw me as not just a guy with buying one duplex or piece of property, but this guy's got some experience. He's a little more of a savvy investor. Mm-hmm. And so, I always thought I was, but I wanted to make sure those other folks would see me that way as well.
Sure.
And, but I think today, I would maybe do it a little differently. I think you still have to, you still need to be thinking about that income, and you still need to be thinking about that credit score. But I think I would go a little bit more directly towards the money guys and try to find the deals and talk to them. Say, hey, I got an idea.
Sure.
And not wait years and years. That would be, maybe that would be maybe that would be my advice.
Sure.
So Steve, I know one thing we talked about this past week when we had a random run-in, you drove me back to work. So thanks again for that. You mentioned the power of your network. I know that's something that Kevin, we talk about all the time. Mm-hmm. It's not about, who you know, it's actually who knows you and what they think of you. And again, we've talked about, you went from real estate, hospitality industry where you have done very well. Why should people actually value their network? Why is it important? You just mentioned get around the money guys. Why?
Well, and Garrett, you said I'm going to repeat something you just said. It's not so much who you know, but who knows you. And for you to be able to point out, hey, so-and-so knows me. And I think it's even part of your all's core values, who you associate with. And really the people that can sometimes make things happen, if you will, they're just regular people like anybody else. Right. I was trying to think of an expression, but sometimes they say birds of a feather. But I think you try to associate with people with kind of that like-minded thinking people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was fortunate enough, to have a dad that drilled this into my head growing up. Of good people want to work with good people. That's really as simple as it gets. And we mentioned, and Craig and, some of the other people I worked with at the bank, good people really just want to work with good people. And I think you're hitting on something, Steve, that, you got to build a network around you that, one, they have the best intentions for you and themselves. They're not selfish. They're not, untrustworthy. You're going to have to rely on either someone else's money, time, resources to help you get to the next level.
Right.
And hopefully you can all do that at the same time together and keep growing together. But I like what you said, it takes other people.
And I said I wasn't going to interrupt you, but you gave me a thought in this. And actually, this is another, I think, core value of Awesome Inc. The unselfishness that you're saying, you're kind of looking for folks that are unselfish. And in some crazy way, I think you can take the entire planet and take everybody and put them in one or two buckets. The one bucket are the givers, and one bucket is the takers. Mm-hmm. I try to stay away from the takers. I try to associate myself with givers. Not silly givers, but people that want to give, and I think we all recognize that, and I think we recognize people that want to take, and I like trying to be around people that want to give.
Yeah. I know. I love that. Tell us about a time where, you've been doing this for a long time. So tell us about a project or a business or, a certain deal that did not work?
Oh my gosh.
You can tell us the gory details, or you can be as vague as you want, but tell us about something where you went in thinking, hey, this is going to be the next greatest thing, and then it just fell flat on its face.
I've been there where I like to say where the bottom looked like up. But, I think that if the things that I got into that, that I really was not involved with, or I didn't really understand it. And,
Are there any specific stories that come to mind? Or?
Oh dear gosh! I mean, if somebody were listening here, they would know.
You can pick one. Yeah.
But no, it was it just it just didn't work. It was another food concept.
Okay.
And it could have worked, but it just didn't work. And luckily at that point in my life, it didn't hurt me too bad.
Sure.
But
What about it didn't work? Or what makes, I think, I would hope most people know what makes a good deal good, but what makes a bad deal bad?
What makes a bad deal bad? I think that, really, a bad deal bad is when you got to feed it, when you got to put money into it. It's kind of like, I think when we talked a little bit about, getting into any kind of deal, I always kind of ask myself, how do I get in? How do I get out? Mm-hmm. What's the worst case scenario? What's the best case scenario? If I can live with the best case scenario, I might do it. If I can't live with the best case scenario, meaning lose all my investment and then some, then I say, as they say on Shark Tank, I'm out. You know what I'm saying?
No, I think that's great. Tell us a little bit about, at the age of 25, you bought your first piece of property. You've obviously been interested in kind of being not self-made, but self-employed. You want to do things your way. You practiced law there for a little while. Tell us how you got involved with law and how law has kind of shaped how you've conducted your businesses over the last 20 years.
This is why when you sometimes say give somebody advice, I go, don't do it the way I did it. This is not the way to do it. Okay, I can give better advice on, hey, if I were in your shoes today, here's the way I would do it. But actually, kind of one of the ups and downs, if you will, were I did the law school thing after the real estate thing. Okay. So I was doing real estate, and but in the back of my mind, I always thought in some ways that I was a lawyer, even if I wasn't. Even when I was not a lawyer, but I always kind of thought that way.
What? But, did you like to argue? Did you like to defend people?
Hey, be careful there, pal. No, I just you're kind of talking about your dad. I think my dad was a lot that way. He was a very sharp business guy. He taught all of us a lot about business and just everything about business, just many, and I could, tell you a lot about my dad, who's no longer with us, but was a great businessman, and had 5 kids, and anyway, didn't have a whole lot of money, but he was able to, he was still, just a very sharp businessman. But the law thing really was that I just wanted to, I said, hey, if I won the lottery, I'd still go to law school. I wanted to be a lawyer, and I think it has definitely helped me over the years. Really, more so just just in individual business deals, and just kind of being if there's another lawyer at the table, then I'm also a lawyer at the table.
Okay, how has going back to get a law degree opened up doors for you now? Or how did your law degree and law experience get you into certain rooms with certain people that may have been more difficult without it?
I think getting a law degree and then taking the Kentucky bar and passing it, thank you very much, and being a lawyer in Kentucky was the association, some great individuals that I was able to meet and really have helped me over the years, and some very, very good folks there. So it's kind of not exactly what you're asking me about, and really as far as the practice that, I really, never really wanted to, I really wanted to be, entrepreneur was always in me. I don't know if I use that word, entrepreneur, but that was always, business, and being in business was always what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Even when I was with the law firm that I was was with, I was trying to tell this lawyer, I said, here's how I think we need to make this thing make money.
Yeah.
Okay. But, and nothing,
not every place has that. So I think a lot of people, and you talk about the influence of your dad. I think, unfortunately, and sometimes fortunately, young people will almost put too much weight in what a parent, what a mentor, what someone wants them to do. So I think it's not only did you do that, to not only make your dad proud, but it just opened the door for you and also made you more valuable to the people around you. And I think, we talk about, our network and giving. I think anytime you can be an asset to the people around you, it's only going to lead to more success.
And I'll just make a comment.
Go
That's
for it.
what, and I know we're here today at Awesome Inc. And I swear, and I know I've told you guys this, but I think this is just the neatest group, the neatest organization.
We appreciate
and it
that.
just, I kind of, I don't know how this. I know Kevin called me one day and said, "Hey, you got to come down here and see Awesome Inc." And I thought, man, Anyway, I really had no idea of what you guys do, but now and
Sure.
Garrett said I was a judge there, at your 5 Across, and that was pretty dang neat. But I think you guys have got it, and I think this is really, really a great organization. I know you're not asking me to do this today, but for young entrepreneurs,
Garrett will send you a check after this.
And I think I got again. I think like I'm talking like the dad, but what a great. For me, way back when as a young entrepreneur to be involved with a group like this, to have the support and the mentors, and would be just pretty amazing. So
Sure.
I think this is I am happy to be here and happy to be involved with Awesome Inc.
Yeah. Garrett, I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking. Do you want to
No,
interject?
this is nice. People always hear me. You guys have the better relationship, so I'm getting to sit back and listen.
Yeah, something that I appreciate about just you and your personality and how you conduct yourself are you're a details guy. You know what normal baselines, what normal standards are. Let's say if it's a restaurant or a real estate deal or a house, what the standard is, but you're big on blowing expectations out of the water, which I think a lot of people don't. People may not notice them. Normally, the details are subtle. Sometimes they're even hidden. But, we call it like the Disney factor here at Awesome Inc. We're obsessed with Disney. And something that Disney does better than anyone else is they think of every little detail to make the experience at Disney as great as absolutely possible. And we noticed that when we were visiting your place the other day. You're a big details guy. So talk about how the small things make the biggest impact on a business.
How the small things make a big impact on the business. I've kind of said this, throughout my life and career. I'd say, here's the deal on. If you say details and even expectations, even Disney, and I think Disney is, what a great standard to be to hold yourself up to.
I'm 28 and I still love going there as an adult.
Disney is. But I think in some ways, people have certain expectations. Even going to Disney, you have certain expectations, and really for really to get, I'll call it the points, you got to meet those expectations. But it's when you exceed. Ever so slight. And I think, meeting expectations is tough. We've got to do a whole lot just to meet the expectations. Somebody comes in a restaurant. You expect to walk in the door and the temperature to be right and to sit at a table that's clean, and you order food and it arrives, and the food is, it's but when you exceed somebody's expectations, what it might be, ever so slight, there's a parent with a child and somebody assists the parent, does something that you did not expect. And I think that's really, I'm not saying where we only get credit, but I think that's where we get the credit. I think we have to meet. And so sometimes I jokingly say, I try to minimize the expectations, but then do everything we possibly can to meet and then exceed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're big on under promise, over deliver.
Right.
We're big on that. And,
right.
That's something that's been drilled in all of our heads for good reason.
Right.
Because, we obviously want to go above and beyond for our customer, for our client. And, we always want to have that quote, air quote, Disney effect on everything we do. I heard this was years ago, in the you're pretty familiar with the hospitality business, restaurants and, now City Center down here in Lexington. The second hardest thing to do is to get someone to come visit your restaurant, hotel, golf course, whatever it is. The second hardest thing is to get them there the first time. The hardest thing is getting them back again for a second, third, fourth, fifth time. And I think it goes back to those details. When someone goes above and beyond for extra good service, or, the product, they undersold and it adds way more value to you than you could have ever imagined.
And if I can add one thing, is that even one of the Awesome Inc., I'll keep, going back to the Awesome Inc. core values, treat people like a human being.
Yeah.
And that's, is that, and believe it or not, in the 20 years that I operated those restaurants, the calls I received when they finally go, I want to talk to that guy. Okay. It was, I'm going to almost say never about the food. Never. I really did not get, it was always the same. It was how they were treated. Really? It was usually how they were treated by somebody in the management level.
Really?
And, really all they wanted somebody to do was just, understand them, So how would you know? And I almost say this too. This is kind of a one thing too. I go, look, you don't have to agree with them.
Right.
Just understand them.
Sure.
Whatever that might be.
Yeah.
I think
we have 2 ears and one mouth for a reason.
Well, I used to compare it to my poor grandmother who's no longer with us. She would go out. We take grandma out to to get breakfast, and she goes, my coffee's cold. I go, Grandma, it's steaming. I know, but it's cold. So anyway, but it doesn't matter if somebody says their coffee's cold and you can see it steaming. You go, what is your response to them? I'm going to bring you some hot coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
Understand. You don't need to agree.
Sure. So that leads to another question is, what's the, how would you normally handle that situation? Let's say someone walked into a restaurant of yours and they were like, yeah, this manager was super unaccommodating, rude, short. What is your response to that?
I used to call it the Grand Canyon echo. Somebody says, hello. If they say the manager was, whatever they might say, hey, we waited 20 minutes for a table. You guys waited 20 minutes for a table? Well, it was at least 15. If you understand what that guest is saying, and sometimes I would even get a little bit more upset than the guest.
Sure.
I would say, well, if our cooks are doing blah, 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 or our manager doing something, they really don't need to be working in a restaurant.
Yeah,
and they would go, well, I don't want to get anybody in trouble. Well, no, I'm just saying this is the kind of person that they need to be, thinking about maybe a different career. So anyway, I wanted to make sure that I understood that guest. And typically, and everybody knows this over the years, some of the best relationships that I ever got over the years in the restaurant business was some of the most difficult customers who had complained because one, here's the bottom line with the guest. They want you to understand, it's a two-prong process. They want you to understand, bang, you get a check mark. And then here's the next one. What are you going to do about it? But that's at the restaurant level. Understand what that guest says. My coffee's cold. What are you going to do about it? I'm going to bring you some hot coffee. Whatever the situation is in any business, understand what the guest is saying, and then what are you going to do about it? But usually the calls I got were, the guest made their complaint, and the manager, rather than trying to understand, tried to get defensive and explain why, whatever, I said,
Sure.
The problem with an excuse, you know what it sounds like? It sounds like an excuse. You know what I'm saying? So that's when you give an excuse, you know what it sounds like? It sounds like an excuse.
No, I think that's great. And
in other words,
I totally agree with you.
So,
was there ever a time where you think, or are there times when we give the customer too much power? Obviously we want to accommodate. Is there ever a point where, some of these young entrepreneurs, they're going to be in maybe stage 2 to 4 of their startup? How much, what would you tell them? How much feedback do they need to listen to? What's good noise? What's bad noise? When are they over accommodating for the customer, and then they're kind of losing focus?
I think you're losing focus. Part of the question is extremely important. And I don't know if it's the for a young entrepreneur that's not quite there yet, I almost say, because you kind of talk about even back to the, some of the core values, the naysayers, I say be careful about even listening to the naysayers. As a matter of fact, I even go one step further, I think we were talking about this, yesterday or whatever. It's okay to say, I'm going to start a running program or I'm going to start eating healthier. People love hearing that. But when you start saying what you're going to do, and some of the listeners hear you say, I'm going to start this business and this kind of thing, what the listener may be hearing is, this is what I'm going to do to get to make money, and I'll have more money than you. I'm doing a little bit, exaggerating there slightly,
Sure.
But I think you got to be careful when you're talking about, some old law professors say money makes people funny. Sometimes money, and, I think it's okay to tell people, the young entrepreneur, what you've done, but be careful about telling them what you're going to do.
No, I think
I think it distracts. I think you can sometimes, you got the naysayers, or you got, in some ways, if it were easy, everybody would be there. Everybody be doing it. It's not easy. And there's a lot of, so I think that entrepreneur, at least I think they've got to keep their eye on the bullseye and not let the noise distract them.
Sure. Are there certain things that you did, or certain types, obviously like-minded people, are there certain things you did to help you with focus and keeping your eye on the bullseye? Whether that's, hey, I'm going to set aside the first hour of every day for myself, or, hey, I'm going to structure my week, my month, my quarter, my year like this, so I don't lose focus. Are there certain guardrails that you put in your life to help you stay on track?
I think, as you're saying that, I'm thinking, man, I don't know if I got an answer to that question, but I think
I'm putting you on the spot.
In the early days, I did try to, as crazy as it sounds, I listened to a lot of, positive, messages and that sort of thing, just trying to keep myself focused on that sort of thing. But, I think sometimes, again, I'm going to go back to, I think it's, somewhat keep those ideas to yourself, keep your words to yourself. Don't be scattering your thinking. And it was more for me just keeping my mind, focused and not let the noise distracting me. You kind of talk about the details. I would, usually plan my day out the night before, and I usually knew exactly what I'm going to do the next day. I'm a big guy on Sharpies and markers and red pens and highlighters and all that crazy stuff. And I still like to write it down. I know, I still do I know it's all digital, and this is a big digital community here, but at the same time, I think there's something magically happens when you take a pen and you write down what you want to do and what you're going to do tomorrow. Yeah. I think something happens. I could get into the whole, magic of yes. Sometimes even when I'm trying to, give people some advice or whatever, I like to hear them say, yes, I will do that. Did I hear you say yes? Yes. Yes. So
I want to hear your thoughts on this. So obviously here at Awesome Inc., we work with a lot of young, early stage startups. We hear all sorts of ideas. We have people that are actually, working on those ideas. Obviously you're pretty seasoned in, going out and making something and doing it well. How do you think we bridge the gap? And this wasn't on your paper, so I'm sorry. I'm
still hearing the seasoned part, but go ahead. I'm not for sure.
How do you think we bridge the gap between the people that have done it? The guys that have gone out there and absolutely trailblazed. Let's just say the state of Kentucky. They went out there and they did it. They built something from the ground up. They were in this, startup stage, 40 years ago. How do we bridge the gap between the people that have made it and the people that are currently trying to make it? How do we get the Steve Pottingers, the guys that have gone out and trailblazed in Lexington? How do we get them connected with our young entrepreneurs?
Man, Kevin, I think you and Garrett, I mean, I think you guys are doing it. I mean, for gosh sakes, I mean, I come in and look at this wall of all the entrepreneurs that have been successful.
And you know a handful of them.
And I think
you
guys are there. And I really do believe that whatever it is, the entrepreneurs that you talked about that have done well, I think I think you just have to ask them, hey, I need your help. I think those folks, they're going to be, sometimes even where my school, I'm from Louisville, everybody talks to high school. I said, guys, why don't you call me and ask me that, ask me. I think you just got to ask them.
Why do you think people don't? Why don't people ask for, pride or, I mean, I don't know. It could be a whole mess of things, but.
Sometimes I think people think that those folks at wherever they are that have done very well are so aloof and they're out of touch and they're not they're not reachable, but they are. Call them. A lot of them will answer their phone.
Yeah.
I mean, people in this block that I know, if you call them, they're going to answer their phone.
Yeah.
And but as far as bridging the gap, I think that again, I think what you guys are doing is pretty dang amazing. Even that 5 Across, where you guys had those, those potential entrepreneurs or whatever there, and really, I think the one thing that you have to do is that the potential entrepreneurs never lose sight that they really are going to be an entrepreneur, and they are an entrepreneur. I think you're an entrepreneur before you ever have any degree of success, before you make your first penny. I think it's a mindset that you have, and you keep it, and other people will pick up on it.
Sure. No, I love that. And obviously that's what, people like Garrett and, a lot of other people on our team are continuing to try to do, is to bridge that gap, because, our big thing here at Awesome Inc. is we want to leave Kentucky better than how we found it. And I think there are a lot of people that want to do that, but they are just looking for an opportunity to do that.
Sure. I mean, look, I wouldn't be here today if you hadn't asked me to come down here and check out Awesome Inc., which is, again, which I said earlier, which has been a pretty dang neat experience for me.
Sure. Well, no, we appreciate it. And Steve, we appreciate your time and coming down here. And, it's been a fun 2 months, getting you plugged into Awesome Inc. And, we're excited to see where this thing continues to go.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Well, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Awesome Inc.'s podcast. And another quick thank you to Lee Rosevear and a few members from our community who provide the music that you hear in this show. Lastly, give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, all that jazz. Or, even better, come on down to our space. Come be a part of our community and get plugged in, and let's start something awesome together. You guys rock. We'll see you next time.